Koei Tecmo has been doing an amazing job with the Atelier franchise, now going over 25 years. And recently they just went ahead and revealed a brand new Atelier game set to release in both Japan and Asian markets later this year, surprisingly enough, but more importantly, making its way into the West into 2024 and even a potential console release in the future later in 2024. So today we're going to be going over not only the brand new gameplay you should be able to see right there, but essentially some of the main new features being introduced in Atelier Resleriana, Forgotten Alchemy, and the Polar Knight Liberator. So not only do we get a closer look at some of the game cycles, brand new dynamic battles with of course animated characters, we also get a closer look at how to train your characters for the very first time, which is something that we hadn't necessarily seen before, gathering in the multiple ways you're going to be able to do it in, a brand new synthesis system being introduced with much simpler controls for players who might be new to the franchise, and of course the introduction of a brand new second protagonist. We've previously have had characters where you had for example, two characters, but they're not necessarily treated as protagonists. This time around, you're going to have 4 potential protagonists, which is really interesting. Not only that, the introduction of Atelier series legacy characters, which we're going to be talking about at the back end of the video, and pre-registration goals. Not only that, this is something that I want to mention at the top of the video. You will be seeing not only official gameplay, but also a brand new set of trailers showcased at Tokyo Game Show later in September. So you should be able to see plenty of details for specifically the PC via Steam release, iOS and App Store releases, and Android stores and Google Play Store later this year in Japan. So a lot to go over, plenty of brand new details and gameplay, but more importantly, the official confirmation that yes indeed, there is a potential if the game does well in mobile devices to eventually make its way into consoles into 2024. So starting out, Atelier Resleriana, Forgotten Alchemy, and the Polar Knight Liberator has different game cycles that we haven't necessarily seen in the Atelier franchise. In the official blog, they mentioned that the game follows the Atelier series' mainstay structure of gathering, synthesis, and battle with a brand new twist. You can progress through the story without expending stamina, so you can continuously make progress without any sort of issue. This is of course in typical mobile game fashion. Whenever you're sticking to main content, you can actually progress through the game relatively normally. However, if you are playing for side content or gathering or stuff like that, things that don't necessarily involve the main story, this is where they start hitting you with those stamina quotes. The home screen will change as the story progresses, and this is something that we do get to see some of those images there as well. I'm going to try to overlay some of the information there on the screen if I can. They talk about the dynamic battles with brand new animated characters. Battles use a timeline system. The key to winning a battle is determining how to acquire effect panels that possess various effects when reading the order of actions. So not only do you get one character essentially doing a base attack, the other one can follow it up with a link attack, the other one can follow it up with a synthesis item combo, and so on and so forth. So combining those will be the key to victory. By bringing in synthesis items, you may be able to gain the upper hand in battle, and during battle, you must utilize the 3 skills allotted to each character as the situation calls for it. By acquiring burst panels, you can unleash a special move called Burst Skill. These are accelerating super flashy attacks that are beyond compare. And if you have played previous Atelier games, you know they're kind of like the big finishers of a link up. Essentially, whenever you have a couple of characters follow up onto one another, they all kind of do this big flashy bombastic attacks, and they kind of do relatively massive damage. They are usually expected to be done once per battle, so it's something that shouldn't come to too much of a surprise. This time around though, one of the new introductions that they're adding is training your favorite characters. Characters can be trained with various ways, including through upgraded materials, items, and even memoria or memory items. They first talk about the growth board. Unlock a panel to develop your characters as you see fit. So you can put points on stamina, you can put points on strength, MP, skills, whatever it is that you wanted to focus on. It is your character at the end of the day. You get to develop them how you want. Then they talk about the Memoria, illustration cards featuring famous scenes from Atelier series, as well as what-if scenes where you can strengthen your characters by equipping these. So the what-if introduction is a very interesting one, where, for example, in a Japanese interview, the developers spoke about like what would have happened to the story in Atelier Aisha if Neo never went missing. Or Neo would be Aisha's sister. This is one of the very original PlayStation 3 Atelier games, a relatively popular one at that. And they introduced the notion of, well, what if Neo never went missing? Would Aisha have undertaken the path that she took to become the alchemist that she eventually became? And all the things that she had to go through. So it's an interesting what if proposition where you now get these illustration cards. They all kind of have different boosters and parameters and even skill unlocks that you can actually attach to a very specific character and see what kind of combinations you can end up getting with that setup. They also talk about training quests. Use stamina and acquire experience and their upgrade materials necessarily to develop your characters. So this is where the stamina grind kind of comes in. Remember, if you're playing mobile games, you have a stamina meter that constantly drains depending upon what kind of content you're doing. We know that the main story content will not drain your stamina, but doing side content and powering up your characters will. So, you certainly need to keep that in mind. When it comes to gathering, they talk about two brand new gathering methods and then the way it's going to affect the synthesis system. Gathering number one, make your way through a mysterious set of dungeons. There are various ways to gather materials within dungeons. Use the gather in dungeon or buy in shop to gather materials necessary for synthesis. Whichever one you're more comfortable with, and obviously some paid options will become available later on. You can expect the game to speed up a little bit if you want to do it that way. Of course, most players will just simply do the actual grind work and gather in dungeon if they so choose. In the depth of a field, you may encounter a boss. Clearing a quest unlocks the next difficulty level, a higher difficulty quest over even greater rewards. So you get to do kind of like the same content again, but you get a more powerful version of those items. Remember, some of those gatherable materials have tier ratings to them. So the more higher tiers, probably better skills attached to them, better rewards for whenever you use those materials to craft higher quality synthetic items. Then the second way for you to gather is aim for the high score in score battles. Materials can be required for synthesis that can also be gathered through the score battle system. In score battles, the higher you score, the greater the reward. Aim for a high score in various ways, such as by not taking damage or by dealing a large amount of damage in a single attack. So this is pretty much combat-oriented gathering. In the same way you typically would expect, you defeat an enemy, you get rewards, but the better you handle a specific battle, the better rewards you're gonna get. You get an S tier, you get an A tier, you get a B tier, double S, triple S, all those kind of things. So not only is the gacha gonna be strong depending on the characters and the items, but also the battles as well. And this of course all ties back to the synthesis system with simple controls. The mainstay of the synthesis system in all Atelier games is now easier to play and play again. Using mana, multiple alchemists join forces by acquiring materials to perform synthesis. Once you acquire a recipe, select the character and the materials. Some characters will be more prone to be able to have better rewards or craft a better version of that item. Examine the character's gift color and characteristics, then create their specialty item. So the gift color and characteristics will be the high defining moment, if you will, if you want to be able to craft a better version of that item. Characters will get to work during the synthesis scene, mix and match your favorite character combinations. The mana required for synthesis will recover over time, and enjoy easy yet deep synthesis through trial and error. There are over 100 recipes to acquire. Aim to complete every recipe where recipes can be obtained in various ways, including leveling up your character or clearing story content. So in typical fashion, you're going to have to put in some work in order for you to be able to craft some of the best items in the game, because they're going to require a little bit for you to step out of your way from the comfort zone in the main story content, which again, that is what they kind of want you to do. Then they talk about the second protagonist. In addition to the announced Resna Steinerlich, I believe that's pronounced properly, a second protagonist named Valeria will also make an appearance. But that's not the only character. There's Heidi, Flak Gersha, and Lance Dash. So there's plenty of protagonists for you to be able to choose from, all of which are kind of gonna end up being separately. One of the focuses more on combat, the other one focuses on a different set of weapons, a little bit more longer range. Another one is a little bit more of a gatherer, another one is a little bit of a sharpshooter type of character. So they're all unique in their own way, but the best part is saved for last. Atelier series legacy characters are being introduced and brought back from previous games. So we have characters like Monica, of course, the aforementioned Aisha, Marian, Ryza, of course, the most popular one of all, Shalistera, Eska, and Lagi, which of course were protagonists in their own right, Fyrus, of course, Keith Griff, which again, a legacy character and a popular one at that, Totori and Rorona, which make me very happy to see, Vane, Judy, Ixco, Etsy, and Raze. So I should be overlaying all of those images for you guys to be able to see just how many legacy characters are going to be making a comeback, and players should be very happy to play with their favorite characters. The last thing that I wanted to mention is, of course, there's a pre-registration bonuses. 100,000, 200, and 300,000 will provide extra rewards, but this is of course mainly for Japanese players, so you shouldn't be too concerned with that. However, they did confirm that at Tokyo Game Show later in September, you will be able to see brand new gameplay, more developer quotes, more details, and all those kind of things. So I'm of course going to be covering it and talking more about that as we make our way forward. But that's about all the information that I have for you guys today regarding the latest Atelier Resleriana, Forgotten Alchemy, and the Polar Knight Liberator, set to release onto mobile devices and PC later this year in Japan, worldwide in in 2024, and presumably on consoles later in 2024. If you're brand new to my channel, though, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching.